In the year 2000, a book was released by Tamaki Saitō, a well-known Japanese psychiatrist. The original Japanese title, Sento Bishoujo no Seishin Buseki, literally means The Psychoanalysis of Beautiful Fighting Girls. However, the official translation is simply Beautiful Fighting Girl. The translated version was released in 2011. Although the title might imply that the analysis is limited to the fictional characters of these beautiful fighting girls, the book also analyzes the otaku. So, there are two main objects of study in the book. There are a few important concepts in the book that need to be laid out. I will describe them in detail in no particular order. First is Jacques Lacan's triad, the real, the symbolic, and the imaginary. The real is the realm of the impossible, a paradoxical realm that exists because it is impossible to experience. The symbolic is for the most part synonymous with the system of language. It is external to the subject and referred to as the other. That language is other to us means that it is a transcendental entity positioned outside the subject. When we speak, we experience its existence, but we cannot be completely conscious of that experience itself. The imaginary is the realm of images and representations, and also of narcissism, since it is located inside the subject. It is here that meaning and experiences are possible. Second is fiction and reality. To the author, there is no fundamental difference between the two, since they are part of the imaginary. To him, everyday reality is itself nothing more than a fiction or fantasy, and that it is fundamentally impossible to draw a strict distinction between them. So the difference is the degree of fictionality. For example, a video of a speech by the president would have a low level of fictionality, while a Tom and Jerry cartoon would have a high level of fictionality. And otaku happen to be very adept at distinguishing different levels of fictionality, much more so than normies. The third concept is Western space and Japanese space. Western space prioritizes everyday reality and therefore sees animation as a cheap imitation of reality. In the case of Japanese space, fiction has its own autonomous reality and is therefore no less real than everyday reality. This autonomous reality is also self-sustaining and has its own autonomous economy of desire. The fourth concept is the phallic mother and the phallic girls. The author contrasts the phallic mother, which is represented by Amazonian Western fighting women, with phallic girls, which are Japanese beautiful fighting girls. Borrowing from Mari Kotani, the phallic mother is authoritative, mature, and has experienced trauma. Because of this trauma, the phallic mother fights. On the other hand, phallic girls are innocent and naive. They also have not experienced trauma and therefore do not have any real reason to fight. So why do phallic girls fight? I'll explain later. According to the author, hysteria is a name for one of the structures of a desire, and hence of reality. So when viewers are attracted to these beautiful fighting girls, they are hystericizing the phallic girls. But the hysterical phallic girls are immaterial and therefore are unattainable objects of desire. And the beautiful fighting girl is loved not just for her sexual attractiveness, but also for her ability to fight. So, it is fighting that brings her into being. Also, recall that Japanese space has its own autonomous reality, which means that beautiful fighting girls do not need to be linked to or resemble those in everyday reality. Not that there is an ontological difference between fiction and everyday reality, at least according to the author. The fifth concept is the 13 different subgenres or lineages of beautiful fighting girls. I've made a revised version here based on the table from the book. The lineages are Splash of Crimson, Magical Girl, Transforming Girl, Team, Grit and Determination, Takarazuka, Sartorial Perversion, Hunter, Alien Girl Next Door, Pygmalion, Medium, Otherworld, and Hybrid. Now, let's focus on the otaku themselves. According to Tamaki Saitō, an otaku is 1. A person with a strong affinity for fictional contexts. 2. A person who makes use of fictionalization as a way to possess the object of his or her love. 3. A person who inhabits not just two but multiple orientations. And 4. A person capable of finding sexual objects in fiction itself. Let's take a closer look. Fictionalization here refers to how otaku take a work of fiction and change it into their own particular version of fiction, thereby owning or possessing said work, as it were. A good example of this is fanfiction and doujinshi, where fans create unofficial parodies and spin-offs of their favorite anime and manga. The third point talks about orientation. According to the author, orientation is the understanding of one's own position. Otaku fans aren't just passive consumers, they're also active producers by creating doujinshi, fanfiction, anime, and manga reviews. So, otaku are simultaneously viewers, critics, writers, and artists. These multiple roles are what Dr. Saitō refers to as multiple orientations. When it comes to sexuality, otaku are sexually attracted to fictional anime girls, and their sexual lives are partially or fully located in the aesthetic realm. Put another way, normies are sexually attracted to real girls with physical bodies, while otaku are sexually attracted to their anime waifus even though they can't physically touch their waifus. Again, otaku are very adept at distinguishing different levels of fictionality and purposefully ground themselves in the aesthetic realm. This is reflected in phrases like 2D girls are better than 3D. Otaku have a rather normal and boring sex life in the real world, but prefer more perverted things in the 2D realm. To learn more about otaku, the author emailed a Japanese male otaku in his 20s. They mainly discussed otaku sexuality. Long story short, it's about how otaku pleasure themselves using these fictional characters, such as buying figurines of anime waifus for personal use. The author also contacted foreign fans outside of Japan. Here, the author asked foreign otaku their opinions of beautiful fighting girls and how they differ from fictional female warriors in the West. Dr. Saitō concludes that the genre known as beautiful fighting girls has had a unique course of development in Japan. The author also took a deep look at Henry Darger, an American outsider artist who was most famous for his greatest work called The Story of the Vivian Girls. For 60 years, from the age of 24 onward, Darger worked alone and in complete obscurity on a single project. It consisted of a manuscript of more than 15,000 typed pages, accompanied by a large quantity of illustrations. 7 heroines called the Vivian Girls arm themselves with guns and fight determinedly to liberate child slaves from the control of evil adults. The battles are often bloody and extremely cruel. His images are characterized by the contrast between the innocent eroticism of the little girls and this sort of bloody cruelty. Strangely, the little girls all have penises like little boys. In this sense, the author considers Henry Darger as the original otaku, as it were. So, how does it hold up today? Unfortunately, there are some aspects of the book that clearly show its age. A good example of this is a rather clumsy and haphazard attempt to describe the otaku in beautiful fighting girls. The structure of the book does not flow smoothly at all. One could even argue that the Henry Darger chapter has little to do with the topic at hand, and should have been included in the first place. And the book is certainly not without criticisms. In fact, I suspect that many anime study scholars have significant criticisms of Saitō's book, such as Casey Brienza's comment that the book contains idiosyncratic content analysis divorced from necessary recognition that artists and directors do not have perfect autonomy in their respective creative fields. One big gaping hole in the book is the absence of female otaku. The book focuses on male otaku and is perhaps reflective of the general tendency of unintentionally erasing the role of girls and women from the discussion, especially when it comes to depicting negative traits of otaku. Naturally, female otaku also play significant roles in the community, and their absence in the book might be its biggest weakness. Tamaki Saitō is well aware of this. He writes, otaku are usually thought to be male, but one theory has it that fully 70% of the participants in the comic marker are female. Not all of them are necessarily otaku, but these are numbers that cannot be ignored. Later on, outside of the book, Tamaki Saitō would also write about female otaku. There are 2 translated articles of his about female yaoi fans, first in 2007 and later in 2009. Yaoi stands for Yamanashi, Ochinashi, Iminashi. No climax, no conclusion, no meaning. A self-ironic reference to the fact that these parodic works had no need of a story and consisted simply of repeated sex scenes. Both yaoi creators and fans are mostly women. According to Dr. Saitō, female yaoi fans are sexual late bloomers, and because they are unfamiliar with real sex, their sexual fantasies are in a purer form. Female otaku also differ from their male counterparts when it comes to their own position. Borrowing from Nariko Enomoto, since men in general fear the undermining of their own subject position, they feel they must establish their personal position firmly before they can desire an object. When a woman desires something, her own position is not important, as she can immerse herself completely in the object, and by emptying herself, she is able to take it in. In the gay sexuality depicted in yaoi texts, a reader or creator can identify herself with both the semi and uke characters. Female yaoi fans are also more interested in the relationship phases of yaoi couples. There is a much larger emphasis on the psychological dynamics rather than the raw visual depictions. An example of this is discussions among female yaoi fans on which characters should be the active semi or passive uke. Returning to the book, I'd like to wrap up the video with a quote from the author. What deserves our criticism is not otaku sexuality, but the deception of those who love anime but reject sexuality. If there is a certain sincerity and ethics in a dissociated life lived with self-awareness, it is because hypocrisy and deception dwell in the falsely coherent life. This book is so poorly structured and so complex that I had a hard time understanding it. I know nothing of Lacanian psychoanalysis, and I don't exactly have a positive view of it, to put it mildly. Nevertheless, I hope that you enjoyed my ramblings. If you have any criticisms about the video, do let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and until next time.